Welcome everyone, this is Arnold filling in at Critical Thinkers University. Today I will share with you my take on one of the most important events of the past 5 years: censorship of the pandemic. Never before has the right to free speech been so carelessly dishonored by the governing bodies of the world. The whole thing seemed to be more about how to train people into complying to ridiculous behaviors rather than dealing with a dangerous pandemic. I cannot believe how obedient the people have been. The subject was good. A pandemic that threatened the globe, but the multitude of unscientifically inefficient measures imposed at the expense of our basic rights made me wonder very early how genuine the whole affair was. A little more critical thinking from everyone may have changed history. Give a like and subscribe and discover with us the greatest tool to the common man: critical thinking, the pandemic-era censorship issue. The censorship of the pandemic era in ostensibly free societies was made possible through a combination of fear, power consolidation, and the exploitation of existing systems such as media outlets, the World Health Organization, and all authorities. Here's how it unfolded. Fear as catalyst. The pandemic introduced an unprecedented level of global fear and uncertainty. 24/7 coverage of the pandemic by all the mainstream media. People were desperate for answers, solutions, and a sense of safety. Governments and institutions gave themselves extraordinary latitude to act, often justified by the created sense of urgency to protect public health. This fear created a climate where dissenting voices could easily be dismissed as dangerous, irresponsible, or even life-threatening. Consolidation of power by gatekeepers. Tech companies, governments, and media outlets took all in sync on the role of information arbiters. By this time, most critical thinkers had a red light flashing in their mind. There were unlogical solutions being promoted. In the digital age, much of the public discourse is mediated by social media platforms and search engines. These platforms used algorithms and content moderation policies to suppress what they fancy as misinformation. In that way, thousands of doctors and scientists that signed the Great Barrington Declaration were censored and banned from social media platforms. Their leading expert opinions were now misinformation. These measures suppressed legitimate debates and alternative viewpoints, especially early in the pandemic when even scientific understanding was evolving rapidly. The only answers came from politicians and pharmaceuticals, and that was that. Broad definitions of misinformation. The term misinformation became a catch-all phrase used to describe anything that deviated from the official narrative. However, this official narrative was static. It refused to change as new data emerged, choosing to ignore new data that dismissed the official measures. In the public mind, truth which is not spoken does not exist. Early on, dissenting opinions, even those from credible scientists or medical professionals, were labeled misinformation if they questioned policies like lockdowns, vaccine mandates, or treatment protocols. Ironically, most ideas once dismissed as false later proved accurate, and again kept silent in mainstream media. Social and cultural pressure censorship wasn't just top-down, it was also enforced socially. Many citizens became enforcers of the dominant narrative, shaming and ostracizing those who questioned it. This created a chilling effect, discouraging open dialogue even among those who might have had valuable contributions. The justification of public good governments invoked emergency powers to justify restrictions on speech, arguing that such measures were necessary to protect the public. This appeal to the public good often resonated with citizens who, under the weight of fear, accepted these restrictions as temporary sacrifices for safety. However, as these measures persisted, they began to erode the foundations of free speech. Lack of transparency and accountability institutions often failed to explain their decisions or provide clear evidence for their actions. This lack of transparency fueled distrust and resentment among those who felt silenced, further polarizing societies. How could this happen in a free society? Even in free societies, freedom of speech is not absolute. As the past years have shown, the institutions we are supposed to trust are willing to be less than noble, like invoking national security threats to well-established professionals who dare to treat a cold differently. During the pandemic, these limitations were stretched to their breaking point. The combination of fear, centralized control over information, and social division created an environment where censorship became normalized, and that is exactly what made possible the many Soviet tyrannic regimes like the Ceausescu nightmare possible. Lessons and solutions. To prevent similar scenarios in the future, societies must promote open dialogue, encourage debate and dissenting opinions, even in times of crisis. Suppressing ideas stifles innovation and trust. Strengthen transparency. Demand that governments and institutions justify their actions and remain accountable for their decisions. Decentralize information control. Support independent platforms and protect diverse voices from being drowned out by corporate or governmental interests. Educate the public. Teach critical thinking skills to help people discern credible information and resist fear-driven narratives. Censorship during the pandemic revealed the fragility of free speech, even in democratic societies. The experience serves as a stark reminder that freedom, once relinquished, is never easily regained. If we could ask the founding fathers that fought so hard to gain what we have, how proud are they of their successors who gave it all up over a cold?